So the next step is that you're actually going to draw freehand this same figure. And we can use this as a guide to know where we're going to place our trunk, our angle of our hips, and the position of the limbs. So what I did on this side was I drew a little grid, and I started with 1 3/4 inches height, because that's the height I'm going to use for my head. Now we're making our 10 head figure in the scale of our fashion illustration. So we're no longer referencing this for any width proportions or even body proportions. We're elongating it and stretching it on the other side. So this is your freehand. So you're looking, have both your image here and your analysis here, and start at the top. So in the grid of 1, that's going to be my head. So I'm doing a nice oval shape head that'll be in the grid of 1. Again, this can be rough because we're going to transfer it to marker paper in the next step. I know that my shoulders are 1.5 inches down, about 1.5 head heights down, and I'm looking at the angle of what I analyzed, and I want to do that same angle here. My apex is 2.5 inches head heights down, so I want to keep the same angle that I did for the shoulders, because you can't change that angle, and I'm going to make that 2.5 head height mark. Then my waist is 3.25 head heights down, so I'm going to keep that same angle at 3.25. My hips, the widest point is 4.5. Well, actually I want to shift the waist area, so I'm going to draw that little V shape there, and that's the angle I'm going to use for my hips, and that's going to be 4.5 inches head heights down. I keep saying inches, but you know what I mean. My knees are going to be between 6 and 7, but I'm going to wait on the knees. I'm going to now draw in connecting the shoulders to the hip. But first I want to do that balance line, because that's going to help me to know where my limbs are going to go. So at the center of the neck, straight down, I'm drawing that center line. Now I can start to connect my trunk and my hips. How wide do I need the trunk area to be? It's the head width. So on each side is going to have the same head width that I have here. So each side of the head tells me how wide my shoulders are going to be. So that, now how wide is my waist going to be? So my shoulders are going to be about that width. My waist is going to be smaller than that. It's going to be 1 head width. So my waist is going to be coming in. If I were to take my head and draw it in that direction, that's what I can estimate to be my waist. My hips, which are now tilting, you can see there's a lot more on this side of the red line than it is on the other side, are going to tilt in that direction. How wide do I make my hips? It's going to be the exact same width as my shoulders. So if you wanted to measure it out to see, okay, my shoulders are 2 inches, so my hips need to be 2 inches. So my waist is 1.5 inches, if you wanted to measure it out. So now I've got this to work with. Now I can start building down my legs. I'm looking here, between 6 and 7, that's going to be my knee direction. And there's a slight angle to it. The hip direction and the knee direction when it's in movement, follow the same direction. Maybe not at the same angle, but the same direction. I also want to add my center body line. So I'll go right in the center of the hip, and I'll mark the center there, and that's giving me the curve that the body is now taking. Then that's going to help to know where I'm going to place my legs. So I'll come a little out on either side for the crotch, and then I'm going to draw just a panty line just to give me a guide. So I've got the crotch area in there. So now I know where I can draw my leg. How far is it from that center line, balance line? So it comes out about that much. So I want to tilt it out even further. The other leg, how far is it from the balance line? So I want to bring it here. Then I'm working down. My ankle is going to be 9 1/4. It's going to follow the same direction as my knees. How far is it from the balance line? So it comes out over here. So I'm going to bring that leg here. And then I have my foot making the rest. Again, really rough. How close is it to the balance line? It's close here, so I'm going to bring it here, and then I'm going to angle it a little here. Then I'll work my way down my arms. So I need a line from my waist that will be my guide for where my elbow goes. So I come out, there's a little distance between the body and the arm, so I'm going to show that as well. There's a slight bend to it, and then it comes and it hits the leg. How long is the arm? It's the same distance from the shoulder to the elbow to the wrist. So my wrist is going to in there, and you can just block in the hand. The other side, there's no space, so I'm bringing it down. I'm looking how long from here, the shoulder to the elbow, down to the elbow to the wrist. So my wrist is going to be there, and then you just block in the hand. So this is the step for just analyzing the figure freehand.